Oh, and it starts while I'm coughing. Episode 53, This Life in Tech. I'm Jason.
Hey, and I'm Dan.
I still got the retro background. Some people said they liked it, so I'm staying with it.
Yeah, I ordered my stuff, but I haven't gotten to the point where I can have Vader and me fighting. So I've got to somehow change Luke Skywalker in the Return of the Jedi when him and Vader go at it. So it could be me fighting Vader. I will win.
I'm telling you, man, for my birthday, Marcia got me, it's called an Elgato portable green screen.
Yeah.
And it's way better than the one that I had made for myself. It's way better. Because first of all, it's easy to, it's on little arms and you know, it goes back into its own case and you put it somewhere and it's sweet. And getting the images, I mean, trivial off Google Images. And if you want to Photoshop yourself into it somehow.
That's basically it. I want to Photoshop myself into fighting Vader.
Yeah, well, you know, and so this is way off topic of where we were going to start, but what I really wanted this for was not only for the podcast, and I've messed around with streaming, which I may still pursue at some point, but you know, when we teach online classes, as you know, you can have a video feed, and the problem is, well, I mean, just like we've had people comment in the past on this podcast, they get obsessed with what's in the background, and they're trying to find like that hidden dildo or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I got this to finally work with Adobe Connect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what I figured out, it wasn't working before because I didn't realize how Adobe Connect can only take like a 600 by 480 image, which is like the resolution on it's horrible. But once I figured that out and I resized the feed off the virtual camera, man, I did a presentation at the career fair on Friday for the kids,
right?
And it worked awesome.
So you were in Maryland, or you did this remote?
I did it remote, just like this, man. And I used a straight black background.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah. And I think, well, there's some research around when you have live, you know, what we call synchronous online teaching, having an image versus not having an image. And I've actually seen research that compared no image to still image to video. And the video brings a much more authentic, traditional learning environment.
Yeah, you know, you could probably wind up getting it to where it was like just a series of GIFs.
Yeah.
In the background.
Well, you know, over time, the compression in the Adobe Connect plugin has improved, so it's not so heavy as it used to be. And I think that's probably a big reason why they only allow 600 by 480. Which I don't know. I don't even think that's 480p, man.
No.
It's less than that.
Yeah. It's pretty close to analog.
Yeah, but it worked and it didn't have any hiccups because I have plenty of bandwidth to push. It's on their side, particularly when you're talking to somebody on wireless, it'll choke. But anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm stoked with the equipment, man. The Elgato green screen. I don't know his exact name. Fuck, dude, it's like $150. I don't know why you wouldn't get one. If you do any kind of like meetings online and shit.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it.
It works in Google Hangouts. I've used it. It works in Skype. I've used it. It works in Adobe Connect now. And of course, I mean, this is through a Hangout.
Right on.
Cool.
Yeah. So, you know, I guess, you know, getting into the topic seems to be, I don't know if popular is the right word, but we'll just say current. You know, the shootings, I mean, that are going on, and they keep going on. And I think there's a lot of different technology principles that could be applied, even though they're not. But I mean, this has been going on since Columbine. I mean, so that was like right around when we were still in high school, I think, when that first one started happening. You know, so I own guns, all right, and I have multiple biometric lock safes. They have a backup key. Guns are in one safe, unloaded. Ammo is in another safe, ready to go. I have a third safe that's got a little bit more ammo, and two keys, the backup keys to the other two safes. And in one of the gun safes, I have the key to the third. So I do this because, well, kids. You know, the rule of thumb is that if a high school student with 2 hours of nothing to do can get into your safe, then so too could a fifth grader. So how long is it? So now I also have tamper evidence on my safe. So if someone did try to get in and fool my biometric another way, whatever way, when I actually authenticate to it, it flashes letting me know that there was an attempt. So this way, at least I'm able to separate, and I know, hey, I'm taking technology to this. They're battery operated, so even if you took out the batteries, though, the memory doesn't flash. But I change my batteries when I change the smoke alarm batteries. So, which is basically the 2 times a year. What's a couple bucks for the batteries in these things? Not much. So I would really need all of them to die at the same time. Because I think a lot of this, the Florida one's a little bit different. In this case, this person actually bought the gun himself, a rifle. And most of the other ones, it was unauthorized access. So, I mean, that's physical security. I mean, that's exactly what we do, quite often, and we have to preach. If someone gains physical access, it's only a matter of time till they get in. It doesn't matter if it's a computer, a safe, whatever. So I don't know why, as a society and as a gun owner, why more gun owners don't take more accountability into what they have. I'm reminded of my gun instructor, and he said, because here in where I'm at, there's no difference between concealed carry or carry. You get a carry permit, you do whatever you want. And he was talking about how one of the guys in class, he already had his carry permit and he was wearing it in the open. And a lady was very uncomfortable with that, even though this was a gun class. And it got a little bit heated, he said. But he said, you need to remember, and I think all gun owners should be reminded of this. When you own a gun, your actions, I think, reflect all gun owners. So we have the people on the left, we have the people on the right. They've already made up their minds, they're decided. And I think this is like this with anything, especially anything political, and this is becoming political. If you mishandle your firearm, if you say a bad example, those people that may never have voted against new gun laws might start voting for the new gun laws. That's my start.
All right, man. So everybody, this is a topic where I think we would probably end up in a final conclusion that's similar, if not identical, but I don't know that I agree on the premises on the way to it. And this is the first one. I'm not into the Boy Scout idea of you represent a group. And here's why. Not because it's necessarily false, but because it perpetuates this misunderstanding across the general public that a single event represents a complex event. And this is what I mean. So, and I looked this up, man. Once you told me this is what you wanted to talk about, because I've never really looked at it. So I was curious, like you talked about Columbine.
Yeah.
So I got curious along the lines of, well, when was the first recorded, let's just call it gun violence in a school or a school shooting? Anybody got to guess what year it was? This will shock you.
Well, I thought Columbine's the one that I seem to remember. And I thought that was like maybe 94, 95.
It was somewhere around there, man. Check the first recorded gun shooting that resulted in a death in a school was in 1760. Okay.
All right.
So real quick,
I'm wearing my Ruger shirt, just
Yeah. Well, I thought it was the rebel symbol.
Yeah, it's the Ruger.
No, yeah. So check this out. I'll just go through a little bit of this.
Yeah.
And this goes to my point. So 1760, there was one incident with one death. And then I'm referencing a table in Wikipedia, by the way, which then has its own sources, which I'm comfortable citing. Through the 1800s, it goes from three incidents with 3 deaths up to 15 incidents with 13 deaths in 1900. So, there's a number of incidents, let's say, every decade or so since the late 1700s. Now, this is where I think that trying to take an individual event and use it as the example for a group, because this is what the news does, right? And to the news, it boils down to, and we've talked about this actually the last few weeks, this oversimplified binary argument: should you or should you not have guns? To me, is the same thing as should you or should you not be able to have an abortion, which is the wrong fucking argument to have. You're arguing about a symptom rather than a root cause. So check this out. Here's an example of, I've never heard anybody talk about this, and I'd be curious to see what the effects are. So over the decades, when you get up until about the 1990s, all of a sudden there's a big explosion in the number of incidents. So throughout the 17 and 1800s, it's less than a dozen events in a decade. And when you get into the 1990s, all of a sudden it goes up to like 64.
64 events?
Yes.
Okay.
And the number of deaths skyrockets. So instead of like 10 deaths, it's in the hundreds.
Okay.
All right. So yes, you could argue about, to me, what is the symptom, which is the weapon. But to me, that's a symptom. Some people now are trying to argue about mental health, and I think that may be a factor, but I think it's a symptom. Why aren't we talking about the explosion in class sizes? Right? I mean, the number of students at a given school in a given class has disproportionately increased. Well, what the fuck do you think happens when you put a bunch of humans in a room? I'm not condoning it, but why does it have to be some mental pathology that caused this person to do this? Why does it have to be access to a gun that led to this? Before, people argued that it was heavy metal music. I don't think it's any of those things. Why aren't we talking about what we're doing to these kids? Does that make sense?
Are you referring to that, because we put, so yeah, I mean, it seems like some of the research I remember reading on class sizes, the most ideal class size is 18. When you get above 24, it starts to become a problem. But
right.
It seems like 18 is the most ideal. And the interesting part in all of that is you have higher class sizes where the property values are very low. Because most, at least from where I'm from, public school systems were primarily funded by the property taxes.
Yes. Yeah, through property taxes and levies, yeah.
Yeah, and make no mistake, whenever they come up with a lottery or a casino, we're going to do this to fund the schools. Yeah, that happens for like a couple of years, and then it goes somewhere else.
Right.
So that's not, but that's an interesting aspect because it comes back, I think, to I believe people have forgotten how to do essentially civil conflict.
Right.
You can only grow with conflict. When you're under conflict, you grow. If everything's hunky-dory and you don't ever have to do anything and it's utopia, what are you going to grow? You're not struggling for anything. You grow and you look as a human being, as a society, through some type of struggle, conflict. I think people have just forgotten about that. And I don't know that they teach that because everyone gets a participation trophy.
Well, right. I mean, being wrong, being mistaken, resolving a conflict, even through, physical violence, not guns, but a fist fight.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. So then it makes me wonder, and I have no idea because I haven't looked this up. So I'm just throwing this out there. That makes me wonder, coupled with the explosion in school size and individual class size, there's also been the proliferation of what are called zero tolerance policies, where like even words will get you removed permanently from school in some cases.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, why do we expect young adults that are not yet able to cognitively understand the concept of well, actually a lot of things, including and most importantly, the concept of self, right? I mean, you don't reach that maturity until your early 20s, most people. So why do we have this expectation that they're going to moment by moment act in an adult fashion? They're not. They're going to fuck up. They're going to make mistakes. But that's part of why they should be in school, right? Is so that they can learn not only from those mistakes, but the mistakes of their peers. But when you couple in all these other factors, to me, that starts to approximate the root cause. I don't think it's it, but I don't think you can say, oh, ban assault weapons because it's access to an assault weapon. In the same way that I think having an assault weapon and making a mistake doesn't speak badly about all the people that own assault weapons, so to speak. I just think it's a distraction.
Well, I would agree with that. However, my caveat to that is, remember that the majority of the people are sheep, and they're just going to follow the flock. When we have intelligent people, we go, let's go and find the root cause. If that were, which this leads to some other pieces, I think, to the discussion, because now the younger generation that's out here, the millennials, they talk about, oh, well, we outnumber you. We're going to outvote you. Well, just key this in a little bit here, folks. You actually have to show up to the polls to vote.
Right. Yeah.
Speak all you want. Have as many rallies as you want. They mean nothing unless you show up to the polls and vote. I'm not sure overall what the right solution is. It's difficult in any way with the size of a country we are to say this is going to fix it. This is going to fix it. And I think it's, because we talked a little bit about this off air. I think it is a disservice. And not that I have spoken plenty about the FBI, but I think it's a disservice saying, well, the FBI had a tip.
Yeah. Well, which is the point that I wanted to make sure we cover today, because I think that's an important part of this. It doesn't deal with the root cause, but it's another talking point that the sheepheads proliferate, which is, the FBI had this tip, they should have done something. Well, first of all, how do you know they didn't? And the result was, because this has happened before, where they responded to a tip and they found no criminal activity, and that person may have gone on to commit a crime. But just because they get a tip and actually investigate it doesn't mean that person's getting arrested. There's several different potential outcomes.
Absolutely true. Absolutely.
But it completely misses the point of how much in volume of information any agency receives. And we have as a society, we have a serious information curation and analysis problem across the board. I mean, name a fucking vertical. I don't care.
It doesn't matter. You're absolutely right. And this is the part that I think people forget as well. Law enforcement is not really here to prevent crime. They are reactionary. They are around to make sure the person who commits a crime is caught, is brought to justice, and or to prevent them from committing the next crime. They're not intelligence agencies.
No, it's right in the name. They're law enforcement.
Yeah.
So in order to enforce a law, that law has to be in the process, or had been in the process, of being violated.
Yep. Right. And, I just go back to where, this is me, because, and I'm not saying that I'm the best gun owner or not gun owner or anything like that. I talk to people that also have guns, and I ask them, professionals, the Marine captain that works for me, TK, who's been on our show, is a retired SEAL. What do you do? And I ask them, this is what I'm thinking of doing, and they say, yeah, that's how we're taught. That's basic common sense. You never store this with this. So I try to make sure I'm doing the right thing, and it leads me to this sometimes where I go, the people that were around this guy, how come they never acted? I don't know. It's something that, and this is sad, because they're probably, based on what I've read, they sound like they were good people. They took this kid in. It's not their child, and they're probably sick to themselves because they're going, wow, why didn't we see this? Not that it's an excuse by any imagination, but I don't know if something really needs to change or not. The Jester, which is another reason why I wanted to talk about this, because he's highly popular on Twitter. I've had many conversations with him. He was a big supporter for us when we were at Silent Circle, right in the Black Phone, which is still on display in the International Spy Museum. So all you Android folks, you're still welcome. for what the work that we did. He had an interesting point, and I think this is like this with a lot of things. Unless, if you're between the age of 18 and 25, you don't get to own a gun unless you've gone through the military. Because in the military, you go through psych evals and you've been trained, right? And they have a way of making sure that you're fit to do these kind of things. Not that it solves everything, but it was interesting because, here in Indiana, you can't purchase a gun until you're 21. But that doesn't mean you can't use one. That means, for my son, for him to use the gun, he has to use my gun. I take responsibility for it. And in my carry permit, it actually talks about these things. The rules are very clear with my carry permit. But I thought that was interesting because when we start talking, the FBI still does every time I purchase a gun. The FBI, they do a quick background check to make sure there's nothing there. The first time I purchased one, I had to wait 3 days because there's a lot of names, a lot of people with the name Dan Ford. I know it's surprising to most of them, but there's only
one true Dan Ford.
There's only one true. There can only be one. I'm not the guy that played right field for the Orioles, and I never had coached at Clemson. But I thought it was an interesting thing because I don't know if I agree or disagree, but I at least thought that, hey, that's at least a civil response on something along these lines. Now you actually have a background to check. When you're 18, there's no background. There's no background to check. So, because it's juvenile, anything that may have been done is going to be sealed anyway.
Two important things, and I'll go in order. First of all, I think at a minimum, those people are morally responsible.
Yeah, sure.
Let's assume that they realized that, but they were incapable of responding in an appropriate way. And I think that's another instance of a factor to a root cause. We're not, in no way, shape, or form as human beings are we prepared, even through the school system itself, which I think is a serious issue. We've talked about we're not prepared to critically think about anything at least by public education. And more importantly, B, we're not prepared to take care of our fellow human beings around us or how to confront them in a meaningful but neutral way. Right? I mean, this idea of your neighbor fucking up and you not really being incentivized to tell them, hey man, you're messing up and this is our community. So, right. We completely lost that with our separation from the tribal identity. And more to the point, I mean by size, not by like tattoos. Right. What's that?
Which we have, but they're not the same.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, some of yours aren't, but
yeah.
But but that also factors back into this dissolution of the concept of self, which I have an enormous amount of empathy for millennials. Could you imagine what our sons feel like facing the world that they face in the volume that they have to face it? How could you even be individualistic, right? And at the same time, you're not prepared to handle that, and you're not prepared to help your fellows out around you, really. So that's something else. So that goes along the lines of like the mental health thing. Okay, so let's assume he was mentally ill in some way. How was anybody around him in any way, shape, or form prepared by our own society to handle that? They weren't. I can't imagine they were. I don't know what their backgrounds or professions are, but if they're just normal people,
normal people, they're not going to be able to do that. They don't have the training.
No. So point B, by the way, I would consider a solution like that because it's proportioned and it's moderate. And I think that's much more representative of what a solution to a civil problem is. The solution isn't a binary. Either you have it or you don't. That doesn't work, especially after you already have it. I mean, the fuck? Right. People that talk about taking away guns are morons. They really are. Not that I'm a pro-gun advocate. I'm a fan of like proportioned moderate solutions. I can get on board with that.
Yeah, I'm not a member of the NRA. I don't necessarily stand for what the NRA does. I don't like the tactics that they use a lot of times. But if you want to be a part of it, hey, by all means, go be a part of it. It's not something I'm for. I think their classes and their training for people who want to get one, they promote that I can get behind because I believe that no matter what you're going to do, me with a motorcycle, I take training classes all the time. because it's a skill. I don't, I don't want to wreck my bike. That could be very painful to me. I train in it. I train with my profession. I train with a hobby. I train with anything. So I get behind that part. But I think a lot of people don't, they want to say that, well, it's our right. Yeah, okay. But that doesn't mean that we can't put things out there to make sure that your rights are being protected. Because guess what? No one has the right to take someone else's life. That's in the military. That's
owning slaves was a right at one point too, and we figured out that wasn't a good idea anymore.
Which one?
Owning slaves.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, so in the zeitgeist of colonial America, it made sense, particularly in the zeitgeist of the entire world. But as a nation, we figured out, hey, wait a minute, this ain't cool, man.
Probably not a good thing. So I don't go so extreme on that aspect, but I mean, I think it's when we start equating this to technology, which is how I always want to bring everything back. I look at encryption as being, the United States classified it as an arm. So that's, to me, I look at it, and again, I'm not a lawyer. This is my opinion. Encryption is classified as an arm and therefore protected under the Second Amendment. So the people who want to go that are, in our field, take away guns, well, what about encryption? That's a weapon. It can be used as a weapon, right? Well, what about vulnerability research? You think we couldn't kill a lot of people finding vulnerabilities and then being exploited? We need the good people to be doing this research to find the exploitable vulnerabilities before the bad people to get them fixed. So I think there's a lot of similarities in those, people that want to go, oh, take away the gun. But no. This weapon's okay, but this one's not. It's all technology. I would love it to get to the day like with the original Judge Dredd, where exactly it's tied to you biometrically. I would love that, which gets into direct assertion of identity, because only I'd be able to.
Well, and I'll take that and I'll ramp it up a notch. We are well capable of producing a narrow AI that can analyze input and predict your behavior.
Yeah,
so this is predictive, okay? And it is insanely accurate at it, okay? So if I have a biometric gun safe or a biometric safety on the weapon system itself, it's not a far step to incorporate a narrow AI into that moment by moment can predict the outcome and either unsafe the weapon system or unlock the safe or refuse it.
That's a good point. And so yesterday I was going to go shooting yesterday, but I was in a really bad mood. So I chose not to go. If I'm in a really bad mood, I'm not going to ride my motorcycle. You make stupid decisions in those kind of environments. And I think, being self-aware, I think a lot of people forget that. But, just tying that back to technology. Yeah, absolutely. A narrow AI to be able to determine, your demeanor, your position is different. When you're in a bad mood, you're not walking as tall. These are great ways that we can incorporate in your own dominion. I'm not talking about it being controlled by Google or the government or anything like that, but why wouldn't you want to be safe? And I'm not talking about the heightened thing where someone just broke in. That's different than, because when those alarms go, I would love it to where if my alarm went off downstairs, break glass went off, my gun safe automatically opened to where I would not have to even think, because I still have to think, get my finger on the sensor, get the gun out.
Well, you could dial a system in like that. If this system was deployed, I would argue that it'd be trivial to deploy it in this way. You could analyze the intruder's intentions through the same AI.
Yeah.
Because listen, man, I'm not in this position right this moment, so I'm speaking out of turn a bit, but I don't flippantly want to kill people. I want to kill somebody that wants to kill me. Fuck yeah.
Even the Dalai Lama, it was kind of funny. The Dalai Lama said, if someone's shooting at you and you have a gun, shoot back.
Yeah. Well, because I think that's just rational, right?
Yeah.
So you can also scale this up to, because the background check process can have issues. Well, why? Because we have humans doing it.
It's flawed. Everything, we're humans, we're flawed.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know that I'm a big fan of the government controlling it necessarily. So why not privatize it? And you can use a predictive system to analyze that input. And it's not so black and white anymore.
Yep.
Because, you know, maybe when I'm 20, I'm not fit to have a weapon. But when I'm 21 or 22, just a year or two later, there's material changes in the neurological structure in humans.
Yeah.
For most humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always outliers above and below. But so, you know, why is a deny blanketly? Or why are certain conditions? They shouldn't be. Because it's not black and white. And yes, I agree. Technology is, I don't think, is the savior. But man, it could do a lot better job.
Blasphemy. Blasphemy. How dare you say that?
Well, listen, why do people even trust themselves? We're human. We know where we're weak. We know where we're weak. I mean,
I was in a pretty bad mood yesterday, so I didn't go.
Well, dude, even down to when I'm in a bad mood, I don't write well. So why would I write when I'm in a bad mood? Why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To give it like a weird analogy, I know exactly when the best time of day is for me cognitively to do certain things.
Not everyone is self-aware.
Well,
they could be. They choose not to be.
Well, they don't choose. They're not in an environment that helps that. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons for it, but this is why we always preach this on this show, and I really believe it, especially in this case. This is a place where all of this could be offloaded to technology, and it would do a way better job. You just got to be careful of who controls the technology, of course. That's a problem.
Yeah, probably not Equifax.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Because this is the other thing. I'll kind of wrap up my points here, because for me, it wraps it all together. People have no idea what the fuck they're asking for. And it's ludicrous. So you want gun control. So who's going to control it? The federal government? So then you want an expanded federal government. Why? Okay, so you don't want guns. So then you don't want gun companies, because now you don't have a free market. Because clearly there's a market for guns in America. Let's not get that twisted.
Oh, it's not just in America. Switzerland.
Yeah, but I'm not a Swiss citizen right now. So, but I can speak for my country because I'm a natural citizen. Yeah. What is it? It's like 2 or 3 guns per person on average if you distribute it.
What, in the United States?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember the number.
Yeah, it's several guns per person across the population in terms of the number of raw guns in the country. Yeah. Well, at least that are registered.
True. It's a lot. I mean,
it's part of our culture. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't think it is either. I mean, I take a look at other countries like Israel. They have plenty of guns, but they're all conscripted. They have to wind up, no matter who you are, you go through some type of government service. I don't think we're that different. The funny part is, how come it's not an American gun company that our military are using guns with? I believe the Navy SEALs have switched back to a Glock, but even before that, it was a SIG. So they're not even American gun companies.
Yeah, most of this stuff is French and German or Belgian, right?
Yeah. So
I mean, across militaries. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, now I am a Ruger guy, and it's American. I enjoy my Ruger.
I don't. It just.
Now, if I could get a lightsaber that could deflect bullets, Jesus I'm all Christ. For it.
We can just use our hands.
Yeah.
Do you remember being a kid, man, and in the back of comic books, you could register your hands as weapons?
Oh, yeah.
And they'd send you the little card with your name on it?
Yeah.
Dude, what? It cracks me up, man, because it's always these, like, overweight, glass-wearing, I'm kind of including myself in this, except I'm good-looking, because these dudes aren't, that or like in the taekwondo gis, they're like, my hands are registered as deadly weapons.
Yeah, they're walking around.
Yeah, and they all walk like that too, like there's a broom up their ass.
Yep, I'm like, what are you doing?
Jesus Christ, man.
We don't do that in Kung Fu.
I don't know, man. I think it's an important issue, because I mean, you know how the kinds of things that I'm interested in, because this is an issue that holds us back as a species, and if we can't solve it, it's something that's going to continue to get in the way, because I don't think it's going to get better.
No. I mean, when we look at science fiction, they still have weapons. They just went to, lasers.
Yeah, lasers.
Uh, you know,
Yeah, well, because look, I mean, at least for the short foreseeable future, the population is going to continue to increase. If things don't change, it'll not long after that collapse massively. But the size issue isn't going away. I mean,
no. I mean, what's going to happen when all of a sudden it does start to collapse? Well, the reason why it's going to collapse is because of resources.
Well, and people aren't having kids. I mean, I don't know if our sons are going to have kids. How could they ever afford it?
I don't know.
The birth rate in most countries is I mean, more than stagnated. It's gone negative.
In some cases, yeah. In some cases, it is.
Japan's had that problem. They're really going to eat ass now over it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Well, I don't know, man. So yes, I think we're both moderate. I think we're in the same place now. I can't get on board with this simplified argument of either we have guns or we don't. That's not even a solution to the problem. It's the wrong problem. You're not solving it.
The simple matter of fact is, guns aren't going anywhere. Gun control laws, what are they going to control? How are they going to control it?
Right.
It's not going anywhere. Okay, you could put up a couple other hurdles, but guess what? People are going to find a way. And I think, if we start including more technology, maybe we can put this is the other part that just gets me. People forget bad people are going to do bad things no matter what. It just doesn't matter. Door locks on your door are not meant. They're only, the way my mom used to always say, and I know it's popular, locks are meant to keep honest people out. The bad person that wants to get in is going to get in. That's just the simple matter of fact that that society is going to have bad people.
Right. Well, and that's why I think the very question that gets bandied about in mainstream media is wrong. Because the question isn't, should people have guns? The question is how can we reduce the probability of something like this happening, which is not representative of all gun violence by any stretch of the imagination.
No, not at all.
In fact, it's a big minority.
Yeah, absolutely it is. There's more issues with criminal behavior.
Yeah. Well, okay, so do we want to reduce violence overall? Guess what? We have. Violent crime has been down for decades. I mean, like historically low. Historically low.
But let's not let facts get in the way of
No.
arguments.
Yeah.
It's
fuck it, man. When I run for office in North Carolina, I'm going to clean that state up, and we'll be the pinnacle example for the rest of the world. Trust me on that.
Oh, I look forward to those days.
Man, I'll be happy if I get a single vote that's not like myself. Because I'm not confident that my own wife would vote for me.
Just so I can vote for you.
Yeah. I'm not confident Marsha would vote for me.
Yeah, that would be tough. She's pretty strict.
Yeah, I mean, she tends to be kind of a rules lawyer, if you will. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever's
on the books, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to be a little more morally gray sometimes.
It's the great part because it's nothing about ethics. There's a big difference.
Yes.
I love when people say that's not ethical. Really? Pretty sure it benefited me.
Yeah. According to whose ethic?
Yeah. Morally, we have there's a topic of conversation, but people confuse those all the time, and it just kind of.
Well, in fact, actually, it's a good ending point because the very arguments that people are having right now about gun control, mental health related to gun violence, and all that stuff are rooted in the difference between ethics and morals. In some ways.
Absolutely. Morals change over time. Ethics don't.
Right.
My ethics might change for me personally from going from one particular discipline to another. I'm not too sure that everyone wants to fall into the hedonism ethical discipline, but there are people who do.
There's entire islands for that in the Caribbean.
What's that?
No, I said there's entire islands for that.
Oh yeah.
So I read. Well, I saw that old Rosie O'Donnell movie about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I get just one little final note. I'm loving all of the banter with Conor McGregor. Tells me he's getting ready to fight again. I just don't know who, but he's calling out everyone. Like calling Max Holloway his son.
Well, because of right now, he's the defending champ of not defending. He has the longest record of a champion in the UFC not defending. It's like 400 and some days. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. And what are you gonna do? John Jones talking a lot of trash. That tells me he knows he's pretty confident. He's being found, even though it's not criminal, but not guilty for his steroid consumption. So, hey, there might be a UFC event I might watch here coming up soon.
Yeah, right.
Watch John Jones. John Jones can fight.
Yeah, given how messed up he is, and usually how messed up he is on drugs and not training, and he still completely dominates people. Think about that.
He completely dominated Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier is no joke.
No, because look what he does to everybody else except John Jones. So what's going to happen if John Jones doesn't get suspended, or if he gets only suspended for a little bit of time? He comes back and beats DC again.
Yeah. And gets him again.
That'd be the third time.
Yeah. And it just got worse for DC each time. Right. And Daniel Cormier, if any of my sons decided they wanted to be a wrestler or a fighter, I would love for them to be like DC. He is a humble man. He is, an intelligent fighter. And, he was an Olympian, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This guy was no joke. I would not want him being, in terms of the demeanor, like a John Jones, but still, they got to be able to talk like Conor McGregor.
And you don't mean the accent.
No, I don't mean the accent. They're going to have my wit for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if he fights, man. I mean, there's a lot of 2018 left.
I think he fights. I think he fights. My complete entire opinion. I think he fights Nate Diaz because that's the big money fight. And then I think he does it and then he steps away. He's like, all right, I've now beat you twice out of 3 times. And he fights him at the 145, which will then be hard for Nate. Not that he can't do it, but I mean, I don't think Nate Diaz looks very good at 145.
Is it 145 or 155?
Either way.
At lightweight, right?
Yeah. I don't know what the weight. I thought it was 145, but I could be wrong.
I don't know now. I'm looking because oh shit, there's so many definitions for it. Fuck it. Let's say it's between 140 and 150 somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Because at that point, it's not that big of a difference. It's not that big of a difference given where he's cutting from.
Yeah.
Which is probably somewhere around 200.
Yeah. But I'm getting kind of excited. I think he's coming back. He's talking trash to everyone. Maybe he even comes back just to fight Max Holloway and put him down again. Because remember, Conor McGregor did this with torn ligaments in his knee, fought him on one leg, and beat him.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's a hard cut down there.
Yeah.
Or does he wait for Tony and Khabib to fight? Because they talked about putting on an event in Russia. And I mean, the rumors were that was geared towards Khabib because, dude, I mean, if you think the Irish love Conor, the Russians absolutely love Khabib.
Oh, I bet they do. But I think Khabib's got to, actually show up to more than one fight in a row.
On weight, uninjured, yeah.
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 I would not want to put my marketing dollars with Khabib in there. I just wouldn't. Khabib's a great fighter, but he doesn't show up.
Which is why I think they don't.
Yeah. Because something will happen. He'll get injured or he won't make weight. And then what? That blows everything up. And here's the thing. If I'm Conor McGregor, Khabib doesn't make weight, I'm not fighting and give me my money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out there and go, hey, the guy didn't follow the rules. I made weight. He didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like it or not, that's an agreed upon contract well ahead of time.
Yep. This is the weight. If he shows up and is not make weight, I'm Conor. I'm like, I'm not fighting. Nope. UFC, pay me my money. I still get everything. I showed. He didn't. So.
I agree.
So anyway.
Hoo-wee. That was a good one.
Yeah. I mean, we can bring technology back even with guns. They've been around for a long time. Hey, for me, it's about my access control to guns. I think if we could add some AI to it, would be great. Even AI, or in this case, more machine learning based on characteristics for those that have to do the background checks to see if you're fit. I kind of like the Jester's take on it a little bit. I don't know. I'd like to see if something like that actually happened, what other things are. But I think there are some answers that no one has to lose and our rights aren't jeopardized. Hey, if my kids can stay on my health insurance until 26, you want to be an adult? Get off my health insurance.
Well,
Stop
I mean,
living off of me.
we're fine as a society saying you can't drink alcohol legally until you're 21.
Yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Yeah.
So, all right,
cool.
friends.
All right, that's episode 53 done.
From Vader and I, here in the land of the frozen tundra.
I'm gonna recede back into my 8-bit landscape. Later, everybody.
Bye.